Radio on Sunday evening. So join me in welcoming Mr. Cardwell.
Thank you very much. It is so nice to be with you all this afternoon, and I'm very, very proud to be with you. And I was thinking, I've been to Hiram a lot, and generally speaking, if I am in your town and I say that I've been here a lot, it's not a good thing. Because I've been chasing a crooked politician or reporting on some kind of a company that did something they shouldn't have done. But here's the qualifier. I've been through Hiram a lot. Okay, but I love being here. I've actually given a talk here about 4 years ago. We were talking earlier about protecting yourself with financial planning. Greetings from my friends at WSB. We were talking a few minutes ago about Neal Boortz, and of course y'all know that this is his final week. And we had a big shindig for him at the Fox Theater on Saturday night. And one of the funniest jokes was that Neal has always been a prankster. And a few years ago, he put a vibrating cell phone, buried it in Monica Kaufman Pierson's chair on the news set, and he was sitting at home in the 6 o'clock news, and he dialed the number, and he said it was so much fun watching Monica read the news and go, and that's when Chuck Dowdle stood up and said, Neal, you shouldn't tell that story. Trust Dale will bring his camera and come expose it for everybody. So I think everybody will miss Neal, but one of the great things about WSB, as you guys know, are familiar faces and people that have been around forever. They're your neighbors, they live in your community, they go to church with you, and it's a good group of people to be associated with. And I'm very proud to represent them, and I'm proud to be with you today. A few years ago, I got a call from a lady named Margie Peak, and she had what I thought at the time was a pretty unique story. She said, Dale, I answered an ad in the newspaper from a cleaning company. They were looking for help, people that would come out and join them to help clean homes. And it was great because the price, the hourly rate they were going to pay was almost twice as high as anything else I could find. And so I was really excited about it. I met the gentleman who owned the company, and we talked about terms, and there were a couple of catches, but she said there were nothing that I couldn't deal with. She said I had to buy all of my own cleaning supplies, which I thought was reasonable. And I also had to provide my own transportation, but that he would give me a list of homes that I would clean, and it would go fine. There was the second catch, that I would not get paid for 4 weeks. The first 4 weeks that I worked, I had to prove that I could clean homes efficiently and effectively, and he was going to check with the customers to make certain that they were happy with me. Well, she said the first 4 weeks came and went, and she was cleaning 5 houses a week and had cleaned 20 houses, and it was time to get paid. And so she sent him her invoice, and 2 days went by, no check. 3 days went by, no check. 5 days went by, no check. And she finally got a hold of him, and she said, okay, I've finished the month. In fact, I've done another 5 days, and I haven't gotten my check yet. And he said, no, you don't understand the process. I'm not going to release your check until you've completed 4 weeks of service, and then you will get paid at the end of the second week. So she said, well, wait a second, you're telling me that I'm going to work for 6 weeks before I see a paycheck? And he said, yeah, and those are the terms you agreed to if you'll read the employment agreement that you signed. And sure enough, she read it, and that's what she found. Well, she waited till the end of that 6th week, and no check. So that's when she called me, and she was telling me this story, and I said, well, you know, that sounds terrible, but there could be a logical explanation, so give me his name and number and what you know about him, and I'll see if I can find him. I spent 2 or 3 days trying to find this guy. No business address, no findable office, no easily found anything about his company, and then I thought, okay, this smells. So I said, let's do a story. Let's do a story about what happened to you. And she said, sure I will, because I'm out a lot of money. I bought my own stuff, and I haven't been paid. So she went on Channel 2 Action News that night as the lead story about what had happened to her. When I got back to my desk after doing that story, I had 23 calls from other people who had agreed to clean houses for this gentleman for 4 weeks in hopes of getting paid at the end of 4 weeks. It was a great scam. It was a great scam. This guy was making a fortune using free labor to clean houses. And every time someone got frustrated and was not getting paid, what would they do? They'd quit. They'd quit. So he was continually running ads in the paper, getting new employees to clean houses for free, and he had an absolutely free labor force. Well, I found him, and I chased him with my camera, and I did my best to embarrass the fire out of him, and I got in his face, and I said, I need to understand, and Miss Pete wants to know how you can sleep at night. And he squirmed and wiggled, and he got really embarrassed. But here's the moral of the story. No one prosecuted him. I couldn't get the district attorney interested. I couldn't get the Federal Trade Commission interested. I couldn't get the local police interested. You know why? Because they considered it a business dispute. Those people signed the contract. They said they'd wait for 6 weeks to get paid, and then they would all quit before they were going to get paid on the 6th week. He had a great scam. I've been in Atlanta for 17 years. I came here in 1995 to work every day with consumer legend Clark Howard. And I didn't know Clark from Adam, but I knew that's what I wanted to do with my life. I had been an investigative reporter a long time, most recently in Nashville before I moved here. And I was tired of going out and telling people how rotten the world was. So I moved to Atlanta to work with Clark to empower people. Well, pretty soon, I got back into that system of finding bad people, bad companies, bad politicians. And I guess I'm kind of good at it because WSB said that's the kind of work we want you to do. By 2008, I could walk out of WSB, pick up a rock, throw it, and hit a bad company. I was not happy. And so that's when I had this idea. I thought, what if I used my, at the time, 26 years of investigative experience, and instead of telling you how rotten things are, what if I turned this upside down, created a process that would vet great companies, tell you who the great companies are, who the great services are, use a 7-point process to vet them and make certain they're good, and then give you a peace of mind that you're making a smart buying decision. That's where TrustDale.com came from. I was watching television one afternoon and I saw this commercial for a natural gas company, and it had a beautiful lady, an actress, dancing. She had kids running around her feet and she was snapping, and she said, I just saved $75 off my gas bill. And then I watched it and they ran it all the time, and so I finally recorded it and I slowed it down and looked at the nice type, as Clark would say. And what it said is, you're going to get $5 off your bill for the course of the 12-month contract. And in order to get the full $75, you had to continue with the contract for at least, what is that, with 7 months? I'm doing math here. Anyway, at $5 a month. But here's the catch. They were going to raise your rate in the 7th month, but you still had to continue paying, and you were locked into that contract, and guess what? You were going to pay about $300 for that $75 discount. And I thought, folks, that's a gimmick. That's bait and switch. That's why traditional marketing is tough these days, because the only thing that seems to break through is repetition and humor. So I said, I think there's a group of people out there that just want honesty and straight talk and information that helps them make a tough buying decision. So I said, what are the components of a scam? What are the components of choosing a company and knowing that you're making a smart decision? So I created a 7-point process. It's called PBCCLLM. And if you have a pencil, it may be worthwhile to jot it down if you can remember it. It's kind of catchy, PBCCLLM, PBCCLLM. But here's how I vet a company on TrustDale.com. This is also how you can avoid being taken by a scam artist, and it's pretty much foolproof. First of all, I take a look at the price structure of a company. The #1 problem that people have when it comes to price is not paying a little bit more for a company or a product or service that's a little bit more valuable. They hate to be baited and switched. It's one of the worst things in the world. I did a show today at WSB featuring my window partner, which is U.S. Window Factory, because they build a great window in Norcross. It's a family-owned company, and they own the factory, and so they can provide a great window at a very competitive price. Part of their problem, though, is they're continually competing against this company that says that they will sell you a great window for $190. Problem is, that $190 window would not be a good window on the side of your barn. But the salesperson gets in your door and they say, well, yeah, we can put that window, but it's single pane and it's not going to keep the heat out, it's not going to keep the warmth in the winter. What you need is this $800 window. It's bait and switch. So what I do is I make certain that every company on my website does not bait and switch. If they advertise a product or a service at a certain price, they have to deliver it at that certain price. The next thing I do is I take a look at the company's rating with the Better Business Bureau. Better Business Bureau is a pretty good organization. They are not a great organization to determine who you should do business with, but they're a great organization to see who you should not do business with. And here's why. They don't claim to say that they're going to tell you who you should use. It's not even part of their business model. What they do is that they will deal with a company and a consumer who's had a bad experience. Nobody on my website, on trustdale.com, is there with lower than a B rating on the Better Business Bureau. The reason is, if you've got below a B, chances are you're not very interested or aggressive in taking care of customer problems. Here's how easy it is to get an F. You're a company and you're not a member of the BBB. You get an email or get a letter in the mail from the Better Business Bureau saying, Margie Jones has had a problem with you and we'd like to mediate it. Well, a lot of companies will say, wait a second, I'm not a member of the BBB, why should I care? Where's that trash can? And they throw it away. What they don't realize is that consumers do use the BBB as a resource, and if you do not answer that complaint, it's the fastest way to wind up with an F rating on the Better Business Bureau. So in my analysis, if I see that a company has lower than a B, it's probably because they're not really good at handling customer complaints, and that's a big deal. The next thing I do is I take a look at any published consumer report that's valid and that I can find. I find some that are hard to find, and I take a look at all the ones that are easy to find. Yes, I take a look at Kudzu, I take a look at Yelp, I take a look at, I go online and I type in the name of the company and I'll say complaints or I'll say reviews. I take a look at the Governor's Office of Consumer Affairs, the Inspector General's Office. The reason is, those two organizations, when you're at the end of your rope and nobody will help you and you're really upset or angry, you may very well send a letter or an email to the Governor's Office of Consumer Affairs. They investigate, but if I find that a company that I'm considering representing has a pending issue with one of those state organizations, it's a bad sign and it's very unlikely that they're going to wind up on my website. Next thing I do is I call WWCD. That's a C, see? It started out being what would Clark do, and it was that way for a couple of years until WSB said, yeah, you probably shouldn't be using Clark's name, which Clark is fine with, but conveniently C stands for Cardwell too. And so what that means is, in 30 years of investigative journalism, I've learned that consumerism is a two-way street. Companies, you deserve a company to give you a fair product at a fair price. But as the company that builds a great product or a service that is fair and is worthy and is valuable, you deserve to charge a fair price for it. So many times I've sat on the phone and listened to a person who's telling me why they were harmed and why they wanted me to go after the company that harmed them. And at the end of that conversation, I'll say, Ms. Jones, did you get your estimate in writing before you authorized the work? Well, no, but see, no, ma'am, you need to get an estimate in writing before you authorize the work. I am very sorry to tell you this, but this was your responsibility. It wasn't the company's responsibility. Consumerism is a two-way street. A good friend of mine said, if you want great service, but you don't want to pay for it, it's like buying a coach ticket on the AirTran and expecting Delta first class service. The two don't match, and that's something you've got to be very careful about. The next acronym is L, which stands for license. The number one indicator that a company's taking advantage of you is that they don't have a business license and they don't have a findable office. Now, a lot of people work out of their vehicles, and that's okay for the type of work they do. But you can easily check with the city clerk's office where that company is, and when they're soliciting you as a consumer, ask them where their office is. Ask them where their license is filed. If you can't find a business license, ding, 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 okay? That's something you need to look out for and be careful of. The next acronym is also an L, and it stands for lawsuit search and review. Everybody's familiar with small claims court, right? Okay? It's also called magistrate court and exists in every county in Georgia. It's a great way to find out if the company that's wanting to do work with you has a good reputation and takes care of its customers. What I do on TrustDale.com is when a company is asking me for representation, or if I'm trying to find a great company that can help people, one of the first things I do is I go to the county where that company is headquartered. I put their name in the search engine for the magistrate court. And if that company comes back as the defendant in more than one case in the year that I'm looking, and I do a 5-year search, I'm concerned about it. Because great companies don't wind up in small claims court very often. Unless they're the plaintiff, because sometimes they have to sue suppliers or people that have not paid their bill. That's a different matter. But if you find a company that you're considering doing business with as a defendant in small claims court, it's something you need to look out for. The final acronym is M, and it stands for Make It Right Guarantee. What I found out was that people are reluctant to make a tough buying decision, especially if it involves a lot of money, if they're not comfortable in their own ability to make a smart decision. I'll give you a perfect example. Roofing. Well, who knows anything about what a roof is and the components of a roof? So the traditional way of dealing with that is you get on the computer and you Google roof, and you try to educate yourself about what the components of a roof are before you call a company. You spend about an hour doing that, maybe 30 minutes, and then the traditional thing to do is to, okay, I need 3 estimates. So you go ahead and call ABC Company, DEF, and XYZ Company, and over a week or two, they're all going to come out to your house, and they're going to give you an estimate. And you're going to get 3 estimates, and one is going to probably be a little higher than the other 2, one may be in the middle, and one may be cheap. And you're like, oh gosh, which one do I go with? And so you're going to rely upon the sales pitch of the people that were at your house, but finally you're going to go, I'll take that one. You really don't know if you've made a good decision until 2 years have passed and you're sitting there watching something on television and you notice this water line coming down your wall. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? You go to the kitchen and you open the drawer and you find that business card from XYZ Roofing, and you call them and you get that the number you have reached has been disconnected or is no longer in service. And, and you get out your contract and you say, wait, I've got a lifetime warranty with my roof. But see, if the company's not around, you no longer have a lifetime warranty. What I've learned is that a lot of consumers, you may be a great electrician, you may be a great plumber, you might be a great financial advisor, but maybe you're not great at home services. And what I found is that unless you have expertise in a broad area, sometimes you don't trust your judgment in getting your arms around an issue and making a smart decision. So that's why I created TrustDale.com and the 7-point process, because a magical thing happened. When I started putting those companies through that 7-point process, I would sit down with the owner or the decision maker and I'd say the final step in you and I working together is the Make It Right guarantee, which means if anything goes wrong, if someone finds you through my recommendation, calls the unique number on my website, sends an email from my website, or registers their purchase within 24 hours on my website, and they feel as though they've been harmed, didn't get what they were promised in writing from you, they send me an email and I conduct an investigation. I become their advocate. I'm going to take a fair and balanced look at what went on. If it's above my head, if it's a mechanical issue, something like that, I'm going to bring in an independent expert to give me an opinion. And if I find that I agree with the consumer and that they've been harmed because you were negligent or didn't do something you were supposed to do, I'm going to pick up the phone, I'm going to call you, and I'm going to say, we've got to make this right. And I get to decide what that means. And the beauty of it is the company can't fuss with me. They can't say, well, you know, I mean, I'd really rather not pay that money back. No, you can't fuss with me, you just have to do it. And that's the peace of mind. And an amazing thing I found is that great companies have no problem agreeing to the Make It Right guarantee. And that's the tiebreaker, because traditional media, television and radio for the most part, will let anybody say anything about their product unless it's just blatantly false. And so you as a consumer, you're out there in an ocean of advertising, and you don't know who truly is the best based on price, quality, and customer service. But if a man or a woman can sit there across the table from me and say, I have no problem putting you in charge of my customer service because we take care of our customers. That is a phenomenal tiebreaker. So we have about 150 companies currently on the website, from everything from financial, legal, automotive, house and home products, health. We do 2,600 leads a month where people come to my website and say, I need this or I need that. How many times in 3 years do y'all think that I've had to actually pick up the phone or send an email and say, so-and-so, you got to make this right? Out of, gosh, 150, 180,000, well, more than that, 200-something thousand recommendations. What do y'all think? Anybody have a guess?
0.
Close.
Maybe one.
5 times. 5 times. And I'll give you an example. It's almost all of those have been just simple misunderstandings. When I first started, Shoemate Air Conditioning and Heating is one of my companies. Lady sends me an email and says, Dale, I called Shoemate. They came to the house and they would not honor the $35 discount for going through your website. Can you tell me what went wrong? I sent Sandy Shoemate an email, and I forwarded that lady's email, and I said, Sandy, something fell through the cracks here. Would you look into it? That afternoon, Sandy couriered a check to that customer, and then also gave them a free service for the fall for their heating, for their air conditioner, for the heating system. That's how aggressive about customer service a great company will be. So it turned out to be a wonderful tool for people to use and make a difference in their life that helps them make a tough buying decision an easier decision. I hope you guys listen to our radio show. We're on WSB Sunday afternoons at 5 p.m. Our television show is on Channel 11, WXIA, at 11:30 a.m. on Sunday. So if you're in church, TiVo it. It was the only time slot I could get. And what we do, we solve consumer problems on both shows. It's not an infomercial. It's not a sales pitch. It's real people sending me real emails saying, Dale, I can't get my roofer to come back and finish the job. I can't get that lawn company to come back and honor their contract. So that's what we do every Sunday, and it's a lot of fun. I'd like to take a minute to introduce a couple of people that I work with every day that do a great job. Peg Jones is our Director of Marketing. And Michelle Ellis is one of our excellent account executives, so they can always talk about it. I'd like to end the talk by answering the 3 most common questions that I get. And then I can take a few questions if we have time. But the answers to the questions are yes, yes, and yes. First question is John Pruitt really that smart, and knowledgeable? Yes. Second question is Monica Kaufman Pierson really that approachable and sweet and real? Yes, she is. And then the third question is Clark Howard really that chief? Yes. Thank you very much. A few minutes for questions?
Yes, if you want to see if you have any questions. Anybody have questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. I don't know what to use, but one of the things like stickers for life insurance or other things like that you buy into, one of the things that is maybe because I haven't researched it enough, but you were talking about lifetime guarantees and things like that, and you invest in your best. How do you, when you go to an insurance agency, know that that insurance is going to be there like 10, 15 years down the line?
Yeah, well,
there's some type of federal.
the good news is, yeah, there's federal protection that makes certain that that insurance company is actuarially sound and actually has the funds in reserve to take care of you in the event something goes wrong. That's a big deal. But you can check out an insurance company or a financial services company with a 7-point investigative process just like you could anybody else. I would suggest a company that's been around a while, is a good prospect because they're treating, you can tell that they're in business, they must be treating people fairly. Doesn't mean that a new company isn't, it's just a good indicator. I call Clark is a genius, and the show is a 99% expert show. There's an exception to every rule, and Clark only has so much time to talk about things on his radio show, and I get people that call me and say, doggone it, Clark hates this, and I disagree. I own this company, and I present that as a product, and it's great for some people. I agree with that. It's all about creating a financial package that is right for you. You know, by a general rule, I like term life insurance, you know, not whole life. But there are certain times that whole life is a better deal for certain people under different circumstances.
Anybody else?
I've got a question, Dale. Why is the health club industry so shaky when it comes to customer service?
Because they make their money by getting you to sign a contract for a year, because they know that you're not going to stay. Forgive me, you may. But they know most people are going to quit, and they're not going to come to the health club, so they don't have to deliver the service, but they get to collect the money. And that's the number one problem with health clubs. So I would always suggest that if you can find a health club that lets you on a month-to-month agreement, that's the best way, that's the best path to pursue. Yes, sir.
Yeah, but in the month-to-month, it still shows your high fee to sign up.
It can be a high, well, you know, I don't think you should not pay an upfront fee if it's exorbitant, if it's too high. If it's too high for your comfort level, don't do it. But yes, you do usually have to pay in advance for the first month. But I think that's a fairly honest trade-off if it's a reasonable fee. One thing, I get this, and people say, I wish I had asked them this. So let me tell you, how does the Trustdale team get paid? Okay, that's a good question. We have 150 companies on the site, give or take a few. What I do is I collect an advertising pool fee from every company on the site. If you are in a field that's very shaky and people don't trust what you do, roofers, plumbers, those kinds of things, then the advertising pool fee is a little bit higher because a lot more people come to that site, that page on my site, and they want to trust my recommendation. If you're a smaller company that provides a service that's not very expensive and people don't need it very often, that's pretty low. But the point is that I collect this advertising pool fee to basically tell the story that I've vetted these companies, they're trustworthy, and you're going to be protected by the Make It Right guarantee. The way I describe it is Channel 2 does the same thing. Monica or Jovita or whoever you like to watch delivers the news, and then they'll say, we'll be right back after this commercial. And they go to a commercial break. Well, those clients in that commercial break are hoping that you will use their service because hopefully they're a good company, but they are counting on an implied endorsement from the fact that WSB let that company advertise on television. The difference between that and what I do is that, with all due respect, I choose the company. The company doesn't choose me. They don't choose to send me a check and advertise on my website. So when you have the power, much like Channel 2, of having 150 companies contributing to the advertising pool fee, then I can cut loose a company that's not doing what they should be doing. That's something that's very important for me, for y'all to know how we do. Thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure.
Forgot to mention the renewals. I renew. All you visitors, come on, join up. And we also got the North Atlanta Auto